Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining the May version of the Modern Workplace Partner Community Call, Windows and Devices. The subject for today will be Windows 10 IoT. So just to make sure that you can hear me okay, if you could quickly type in the message window your favorite piece of topping. That will just let me know that you're able to hear me. Hear me okay. All right, I'm not seeing any messages come through. Again, if you can hear me just fine, please type your favorite piece of topping in the message window. Okay, got great. I see pepperoni. Plain cheese myself, but double cheese is always good. Well, I do want to say that this call is being recorded, so if you don't want to be recorded, now would be a good time to drop. We will make the presentation available via our Yammer network, Yammer community, directly after the call, and also the call recording will be available at our YouTube channel in just a day or two. All right. Let me just go to the next slide here to talk about our upcoming schedule and resources that we have available. For the monthly calls, Modern Workplace, we run 3 separate calls. Productivity happened on May 11th. The topic there was attack simulator in GDPR, dashboard, and Office 365. The security call was on May 15th, and that covered Windows Defender ATP, what's new and what's due. Today is the Windows and Devices call. And then in June, we'll just have one call, which will be our quarterly update call that will cover all 3 of those solution areas. If you do want to go back and look at the slides for those calls, as well as the call recording, you can see where our resource links are there on the left-hand side, or right-hand side, sorry. And then lastly, we do want to let you know that we do want to make sure that you're aware of our other partner communities, which also hold monthly calls. So we have our business applications community, apps and infrastructure, data and AI, and then open source solutions. And I listed their call schedule here, as well as the link to register for those calls. So that's all I have for now. So I'll go ahead and get to the main topic and pass things over to Chirag.
Great. Thank you, Willie. So let me share here, and we'll go ahead and get started.
And one last thing, if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, be sure to type those in the message window. I'll see those, and then as we have breaks in the presentation, I'll make sure those get asked.
Right. And Willie, let me know when the slides are up for you guys.
Okay.
While that's loading up, thank you folks for joining. My name is Chirag Shah. I am one of the leads in our Windows IoT program group, and we create the Windows IoT products for use in embedded and IoT devices.
All right.
So folks know about the cloud, right? It's a huge opportunity for Microsoft and for customers in general about data that goes to the cloud. But the cloud is not in isolation by itself. The cloud works in conjunction with devices. And Microsoft holds a unique position because we're one of the only major providers that has both a device solution as well as a cloud solution that we offer to customers. And that unlocks a lot of capability. Essentially, this allows us to put data where it makes the most sense. There may be latency and bandwidth issues that require that data to reside on the device itself for processing, or there may be needs for higher computational capabilities that require that data to move to the cloud for connection with other analysis tools or other databases and work streams that make it more efficient for the cloud. And Microsoft has that ability to move back and forth between those two scenarios, which drives a really unique feedback loop, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So as we look at this, we've had a pretty comprehensive set of solutions through Azure as well as through Windows. It's a combined set of capabilities that really work to build together. So the Azure tools, of course, work with Windows as well as work with Linux as a solution. But the Windows piece holds a little bit of a unique position because of the capabilities that we bring into that solution, where we integrate a lot of the functionality of Azure directly into Windows that makes it a more turnkey solution for those offerings. And so we try and pride ourselves that Windows is targeted to be the most complete implementation of Azure and out-of-the-box implementation of Azure for customers that are looking to build a device-connected solution. So when you see what happens with this stuff, let's look at an example of ThyssenKrupp and that digital feedback loop that I spoke about. Right, so ThyssenKrupp makes elevators, and one of the interesting things about elevators is most of them break on weekends. And that's good because not as many people get trapped in elevators, but it's bad because when you show up on Monday morning, the system's down, and now you've got a bunch of angry people that have to walk up 20 flights of stairs. So ThyssenKrupp had this scenario where what they would do is they were just going if whenever they would do regular maintenance every couple of weeks, they would send a technician out. That technician would go and change, okay, today I need to change the pulley here, tomorrow I need to change the controller there, and they would do that type of work on a regular basis. Well, that didn't always work because things could break prematurely, or they may be doing service calls that didn't really make a lot of sense because the devices were working just fine. So what they found what they could do as they started putting and instrumenting IoT into their devices was they were getting this analysis of predictive maintenance. They were figuring out when devices were breaking, and when they were breaking, they were able to figure out how to fix those in a more efficient manner. So what that happened was that they didn't have to do as many truck rolls. They could do the truck rolls before the events actually happened for customers, so there was less unplanned downtime of elevators. And as a result, they had higher customer satisfaction rates as well as lower support costs, which is a really good thing in any business. And ThyssenKrupp was able to do that because of instrumenting their elevators with Microsoft's IoT solutions and having an Azure cloud backend that was doing a lot of this predictive maintenance analysis tools for them. So we operate obviously in areas like elevators and industrial systems like that, but it's also a pretty wide range of solutions in lots of different industries. Windows Embedded, or IoT, has been in part of this industries for decades, right? So this started back, in the 80s with DOS. So Microsoft was selling DOS into embedded devices, and there are still customers that use DOS in embedded solutions today. Windows XP, Windows 95, all these solutions have been in existence for a long time and have been used in these deployments for decades. And this means that, it's in areas from startups to Fortune 500 companies. We use it in manufacturing, where it's heavily used in PLCs and robots and devices that provide the analysis about yields to improve productivity of factories. In retail, Windows is used in almost 100% of ATMs worldwide, used in almost 80% or more of digital signs used in pretty much any major point of sale system that's deployed. So if you go to Target, Walmart, Best Buy, any of these systems are all running Windows on their devices to manage and run their retail operations. And then we've got things in like healthcare, where if you've ever had an MRI or had an X-ray, or even a lot of patient monitoring systems, all those devices are using Windows on them. So it's in a pretty wide variety of capabilities and usages, and there's some reasons of why customers choose Windows IoT for these areas. So before we get into why Windows IoT, let me talk to you about what Windows IoT is. Windows IoT is actually two different products that we call and we reference as Windows IoT as a whole. There's Windows IoT Core, which you see on the left-hand side, and Windows IoT Enterprise. Windows IoT Enterprise is the easier one to explain. It is the exact same binary as Windows 10 Enterprise, the thing that you probably use on your laptop at work. It's that exact same operating system, binary, identical. Every bit is the same across those two solutions. The only difference for Windows 10 IoT Enterprise is that we sell through a different sales channel. It is sold through a different distribution model and has slightly different licensing terms. So those licensing terms basically limit the use of IoT Enterprise for IoT scenarios. So it's not used for general office productivity, so you don't run Excel and Word and Outlook on that device. It's really used for fixed purpose devices. And that's how we allow it to sell into certain channels and at certain different price points. Windows 10 IoT Core is a newer offering from Microsoft. It's been in the market for about 4 to 5 years right now, and has some key differences against Windows 10 Enterprise. First, it is a modern operating system. So that means universal drivers, universal applications only on that platform. It is also supports both Intel architectures as well as ARM architecture. So it gives a little bit broader flexibility in the solution for what customers need to utilize. It has smaller system resources, so half as much RAM, significantly less storage requirements for that solution, because it's essentially Windows, but it's been removed to its core essences of Windows to run modern applications. And then the licensing terms, again, here are different. So Windows 10 IoT Core is available for customers at zero royalty charges, so zero cost options. It's available directly off of Microsoft's website, so it's through that means or through distribution. And there is an offering that we're coming out with later this year that is going to be a subscription-based offering. So we talked about that there's a royalty-free option, but there is a subscription option which is going to allow customers to utilize Windows 10 IoT Core for long life devices, as well as provide additional services around manageability for those solutions. And we'll talk about those capabilities in a little bit as we go forward. But fundamentally, two different solutions for Windows IoT that customers can choose between based on the capabilities and types of devices that they're looking to build. So taking a step as to why people choose Windows IoT, let's go back to high school psychology. So if you ever took a class in high school in psychology, one of the things you probably learned was this idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Basically, the idea that unless you have you can't reach your full potential without meeting some of your baser needs. So you can't actually have self-esteem and self-actualization about realizing who you are if you're worried about where you're going to sleep tonight or if you're going to have enough food. It just doesn't work in a fundamental human nature about the way we evolve and we develop. IoT is not that different. So you can't reach the intelligent edge, the thing we all talk about in the marketplace, unless you're on solid footing at the basis. So you need to have the long life supply chain, ensure that you can maintain and manage your devices securely. That's really the base of the entire operation of building an IoT solution. After you do that, then you can look for things like greater functionality in the device, connecting to the cloud. And once you know that your device, its data, and everything you need is going to be there and secure with a cloud connection, then you can reach the actual intelligence goal that you want on that solution. Now, you'll see people take shortcuts on that, but that's a recipe for trouble later on. So, why do people do this, right? Why do people go and sort of ignore those fundamental pieces as they try and race to the top of the pyramid? Well, when people think about IoT, customers look for something like this. They expect that it's going to be a very simple path forward with a clear plan. They're going to have all the parts necessary right for them, and they can kind of do some tinkering and modification of the solution without getting into too much trouble, and they're going to have a great solution at the end. But the reality is a little bit more complex. Something more like this, right? It's a lot of different moving parts. And, they start to realize that as they scratch the surface of IoT, but there's still hope. You can kind of see that this still looks like a car. All the parts are there. They're all nicely laid out. But, that is a little bit more difficult when you start thinking about what they're going to need to do for this. The parts generally aren't laid out this nicely. It's usually a vast ecosystem of different drivers, different components, having to manage a supply chain for all these things, having to manage updates and maintenance of all those capabilities for the 10, 15, or longer years that device is going to be in production. And that starts to become a very onerous process, right? How do you go and keep everything up to date? How do you pull and ensure that you're running the best of breed operations for your solution over time? And it gets to be a really daunting experience for customers. And so the end result is not the pretty, Lego Ferrari that you saw at the beginning. It's something more like this, right? And we're hyperbolic in this example, but this thing is going to go get you down the road. But what happens when there's a problem with it? Who the heck are you going to take this to? What garage is going to service this monstrosity of what you've put together? What happens when there's a security incident in your IoT solution, or when you have to figure out what your responsibilities are for GDPR? You've basically pulled a bunch of capabilities together into a solution, but you don't really own or know what sits behind there. You've got to go and figure out how to manage all that stuff yourself. And that's a very difficult challenge, especially for companies that are looking to go into IoT or that don't have a broad exposure or a broad set of resources that they want to dedicate to maintaining and deploying these types of IoT devices. So with Windows, we start to look at this, that we provide a platform. We provide the basis, the chassis of what you're going to build for your solution. And it becomes a lot cheaper to bring products to market because you're now looking at things where a lot of the complexity has been taken away for you, right? We've provided the engine, we've provided the drivetrain, we've provided the various components that you need to make a fundamental operating system so that you can focus on the capabilities that really make your solution unique. You're able to look at the body panels, the dash design, the other things that your customers and where you have real differentiated value in your solution. And this is something that we've heard from customers is that it enables scale for them. Because they don't have to worry about these things, they can really focus on the uniqueness of their product and their solution. So one of the customers that we worked with on this is a company called Misty Robotics. You've probably heard of the predecessor of Misty Robotics, Sphero. Sphero is the company that makes the little BB-8 toys that your kids probably have, the little remote control BB-8 toys that kids have, and that you've probably seen in the malls and other places. They're taking an approach for robotics where they basically want to make robotics as ubiquitous as personal computing. And to do that, if you think about where personal computers started back in the 70s and 80s, it was really a situation where you had to be a really involved tinkerer, hobbyer, or somebody to go and get involved in doing that stuff. You had to figure out where to get components, solder components together, do all that stuff. And robotics is a similar situation. where you've got to go and you've got to basically be a roboticist. You have to understand motor control and servos and all sorts of other complex capabilities that you may not want to do if you want to make a solution that's ubiquitously used. When you get to a standard platform, you're able to go and really focus on the innovation of how do you make this robot do something that's actually useful for people. And that's what Misty is trying to do. So when they started this process of working on a solution to build a robot, they faced the daunting task of trying to pull together a whole bunch of libraries from open source Linux communities and other areas trying to make the system work. But it became pretty daunting for them because they weren't operating system engineers. They were roboticists. And so when they went and they moved to Windows IoT, they were able to take a step back. They were able to go and say, we don't need to worry about the fundamentals of the solution because we have a system that has a vision capability built in. We have speech recognition built into the solution. We have Bluetooth. We have Wi-Fi. We have all these components that are already there, are supported, are certified, are going to make my solution work. And then they could really focus on building the robot, the value and the capability that they wanted out of that solution. And so if you have a few minutes, I encourage you when you guys get this presentation to take a look at that YouTube link. That's a presentation from the Sphero lead developer a year ago at Build, where they were talking about why and the reasons that they went and why they chose Windows for their solution, and the arc that they went through in this journey of building a robot on a Windows-based solution. Sphero isn't the only example of this. We also have a partner, Johnson Controls. They're a large industrial provider of HVAC controls and other industrial solutions. And they had a similar experience about why they chose Windows. In the quote here, they talk about, it allowed them to shift their focus on product quality and the unique experience that they wanted to give to customers. Again, they were not OS experts. They didn't want to be OS experts. They really wanted to define on their capabilities. And that's part of the reason why customers choose to use Windows for their solutions instead of other operating systems. So it comes down, when we look at this, to three major areas of why Windows IoT. The faster time to market, security of the solution, as well as the intelligent edge. And when we talk about the faster time to market, we talk about a complete platform, and that sounds simple, but it's really a major differentiator. There's a lot of great tech already there in the box. No need to license other solutions and bring it together. So we talk about how Windows gets you to market quickly, and you see things like the speech runtimes and the audio graph and ability to do video transcoding and face analysis. Those are all capabilities that are there in the solution already. You have things like access to I/O buses to interact with the physical world, capabilities like a cellular stack that's already in the system. Those allow you that you don't have to go pulling those components in. And then you add on top of that things like the Visual Studio experience, which has samples and docs. You have a developer community. So Windows IoT actually has the second largest developer community on the Hackster.io website. So Hackster.io is a community of professional as well as individual developers that are sharing ideas and solutions around how they solve different technical problems on various platforms. And Microsoft has one of the most active communities in that global environment. So it's a really good resource where you're not alone in the solution. Microsoft has provided a bunch of capabilities, but then there's also a large community that's providing you even more information about the platform and solutions that's available to you. Another reason we talked about was security, right? So this slide gives you a view on the some of the end-to-end security offerings that Microsoft has, both in protecting the system, detecting when something goes wrong. So the ATP session that you guys had last week in this call. That's a session that where the advanced threat protection capabilities are available in Windows IoT as well, because it's just Windows, right? A lot of the functionality that you have about the large team of security experts that's providing Patch Tuesdays and giving updates and fixes for Windows. All that resource is there available for you, not just for your desktop and what you trust in your enterprise, but also for your IoT devices, because it's all built on that same foundation. There are unique capabilities that we have along with this in Windows IoT for things like the secure I/O. So secure I/O prevents, it's new capabilities that prevent unauthorized digital commands from interfacing with the physical world. So if you've seen things like attacks that happen on power grids, or taking down oil rigs, or other examples of some of these solutions and hacks that have been happening in the news recently, a lot of those are because the infrastructure, the IoT infrastructure of these devices is being attacked. And with Windows, there are capabilities that we're adding into Windows to prevent and stop those types of attacks from happening on these devices. Because as you connect these devices, you're going to want to make sure those devices are protected and secure, and they have slightly different threat vectors and resources to them than a standard PC does. And so with Windows, we're investing in those changes to stay ahead of the trouble that's being created in the markets because of state actors or organized crime or other resources that are trying to attack and take advantage of some of the legacy infrastructure that exists in the in national power grids or other areas. And then finally, we've got things like the Windows AI platform and Azure ML. So this is something that we've been working on for a while. We demonstrated it to customers last year. And in the fall release of Windows, this platform running on Azure ML and Windows is going to be offering hardware acceleration for AI and ML workloads on any DX12 capable solution on Microsoft. So this is a pretty broad spectrum of hardware. So pretty much any PC class device that you're seeing right now in the marketplace is going to be capable of doing this. So that means millions upon millions of devices that are going to be capable of this of using AI and ML capabilities at the edge for doing things like vision processing, or as new capabilities in AI and solutions come forward, whether that's in things like digital neural networks or special vision coprocessors. All that stuff is going to be supported without you as a developer having to do any sort of work about that. It'll just be there because you wrote your application to the DirectX environment and to Windows. The system will automatically figure out what hardware is available on system, and will then deploy that workload to the most appropriate device for your particular scenario that you're running. So if you've got a vision workload and you have a vision coprocessor that's sitting on that piece of hardware that you're running on, Windows will deploy to that vision coprocessor. If all you have is a GPU, the system will deploy to that GPU and run the workload on that GPU. It really takes you out of having to go and learn, programming language like CUDA or know the exact underlying hardware that you have on your system. You're basically able to focus on the application development, and that makes things a whole lot easier and a whole lot more portable for customers. So a couple of examples of things that people have built with Windows IoT. So in this case, it's an automated bartender. So it's an electronic bartender. This is a pretty cool little device where they have it for large enterprises like casinos and hotels and other areas where the system basically, you push a couple of buttons, you say, I want a mojito, and it'll go and push out the red and greens for mojito, or you want a virgin daiquiri, it'll put out the red and greens for virgin daiquiri. Whatever you need, it can do from the system, and it's all cloud connected, running with Windows IoT Core on the device itself. You've got things like industrial solutions. So Rockwell Automation has done large deployments providing input to the factory environment for technicians and for operators in a factory environment running on Windows IoT. You've got folks like Omnivex. Omnivex makes large digital signage solutions. So in this case, they're running it inside factories, but you also have it in retail environments where it's really just a simpler solution for them to build on a Windows environment that they know and have had exposure to. You've got others, so Stratus Media, they do kiosks and signage solutions as well. More solutions like Nano Micro and Zogo Mini. The Zogo Mini solutions actually, a Windows IoT-based solution available for about $80, compared to a lot of the previous digital signage solutions that were there that were hundreds of dollars. With Windows IoT Core, they've been able to bring that price point of that solution down significantly in order to make digital signage capabilities more pervasive than they already are in the marketplace. You've got things like mobile point-of-sale systems. So Inouye has built a mobile point-of-sale system. This device actually uses Windows IoT Enterprise, and it's a full handheld, lasts an entire 8-hour shift running on Windows IoT for point-of-sale transactions. So it has NFC, barcode readers, mag stripe readers, the whole kit and caboodle of what you need to do point-of-sale solutions in a small handheld device like this. You've got things like Kodisoft. Kodisoft, if you get a chance to look at the video here, it's pretty compelling. They basically have a digital restaurant table that is built with indestructible glass. So they've set fire to this glass. They chop onions directly on the glass without doing anything. And it is essentially a large digital work surface for you and multiple guests at a restaurant. So you can do things in that restaurant scenario where you can have the menu information, you can do object detection on the solution. So you can do things like people can play games on that table as they're sitting there. So a really way of immersing your guests into an experience in your retail environment. And that's running on both IoT Core and IoT Enterprise. It's a joint solution that has both capabilities. That device, because it's running Windows, can process over 10,000 simultaneous touch points on that table at the same time. So it's a pretty powerful system that they've built with that solution. TrekStore, this is a IoT Core-based wearable device, industrial wearable device. It's being used in hotels and also on factory deployments to give people more accessible information and a more productive environment. So the thing has a barcode scanner and reader directly on it, has information that can be used in safety environments. So we've had security firms, personal security firms that have been interested in this device because they want to know if their soldiers are, based on their heartbeat, on their behavior of what's happening in the field, they can try and detect if they need to send reinforcements or do other types of work. So it's a really interesting device that ranges in things from, hotel operations of being able to check in guests or get updates to your cleaning staff about work that needs to be done in the environment, to things that go into more rugged applications like a police or military deployments or something like that as well. It's pretty wide usage of solutions that's being built with these Windows IoT Core solutions. And then you've got industrial capabilities like FarmBeats, which is something you might have seen from Microsoft before, but it's essentially how you develop smart agriculture by using AI and edge computing and other solutions built on Windows to take advantage and improve crop yields in remote locations. Again, a pretty powerful story if you have a chance to look at the video that's linked in this presentation later. So beyond all those examples that I gave, here's some more cases where what people are building with Windows solutions, right? You see a lot of these are retail-based solutions like smart beacons, digital signs. You see solutions like drones and robotics, which are very popular scenarios for Windows, as well as things like scientific instruments, so scales and measuring instruments. All these devices, it all comes together again because the people who build these devices generally don't want to be OS owners. They don't want to manage and control all that stuff. They really want an application or a solution that they can build upon to provide their own value instead of having to worry about fundamentals of the system. And they want things like the security capabilities of the devices, because if you're an ATM or you're a retail environment, you really don't want to be putting your system in jeopardy, just because you chose the wrong underlying operating system. One of the examples of this that was given recently was in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas, nothing is connected, right? They don't want people on a network anywhere in that solution, but they took on their fish tank in one of the casinos. They had a internet-connected thermometer to monitor that fish tank because they wanted to make sure the health of those fish was good and that they were operating in the right environment. So they did all the work to firewall and isolate and keep things separated from the rest of their business operation network. And they did a pretty good job on that. But some organization, some outfit basically was able to come in through an unsecure connection on that digital thermometer in that fish tank and was able to access the high roller database of that casino. Now, if there's one thing that a casino wants to protect, is their most valuable client list. And that was something that was compromised because of the device that was chosen and the device that was produced for this fish tank. And so, it's a scenario where security is not just something where it's because, hey, I'm building this for an ATM or I'm building this for a voting machine or I'm building it for a medical device. Really, anything you think of needs that fundamental security and the fundamental update capabilities to make sure those devices are secure and protected to protect your entire infrastructure. So a couple of things that are coming up in our fall release of Windows. There are four major elements that we're doing for the fall release of Windows. Most of these are for IoT Core. Some of them also apply for IoT Enterprise, but we're certainly taking feedback on these features if more of them need to be brought over to Enterprise based on customer interest and demand for the capability set. So the first thing we've done is we've added support for additional silicon with Windows IoT Core. So we already ran on Intel and some ARM architectures. We added support for one of the most popular IoT ARM solution providers, NXP. And NXP makes SoCs or processors for IoT that are for both consumer grade as well as industrial grade. So devices that can run at 125 degrees, operating environments for 10 years at 100% duty cycle. Those things are not going to fail across those lifetime. It's used in really rugged and difficult environments that makes it a very powerful offering for a lot of IoT customers. And so it's a really popular solution. We've had a private preview of this solution going on since the end of February, and we've got a few hundred customers that are in that private preview. We're going to a public preview of this solution later this summer. And the thing that's really unique more than just the price points and capabilities of these devices, so imagine a solution that is, less than the cup of a coffee, right? So a system you can boot Windows on for, less than $10, and you're able to have that device running in in the middle of the Sahara Desert for 10 years. Never having to worry about that device breaking on you. That's a pretty powerful solution, but you've got a remote device like that, you got to make sure that thing is secure. And one of the things about NXP is they've been in security for a long time, just like Microsoft has. So there's a really nice combination of partnership there between us around the security elements. We have a talk that we did at Build about that security piece. If you go back to that security slide that I showed earlier, you can see that talk. And that talks about a capability called Trusted Cyber Physical Security that we've done with NXP and what that provides on the capability set for these solutions. It's been a really popular solution that a lot of industrial customers have been interested. A lot of governments have been interested in because of the significant increase in the security that solution provides, built on a combination of Windows and NXP technologies. And so this is something we're going to be launching this fall with IoT Core, but something we're looking to get a lot more input on to see what else we should be doing to build this solution and make it better for customers. You've got things, so the other thing that we've done with Windows IoT is we have had a long-term support channel, a 10-year support story for Windows IoT Enterprise since it launched. With Windows IoT Core, we are launching that same level of support for 10 years of security updates on that device starting this fall. So we know that most embedded or IoT systems will deploy with the long-term support channel option of Windows. And so we offer the semi-annual channel, but we know that most customers are going to choose this long-term servicing channel because it's a feature-locked solution that allows and makes sure that customers only take the minimal set of updates they need to keep their devices secure. Most of these IoT customers don't care about new feature capabilities. They don't care about new, improvements in the operating system. What they really want is just to make sure that their device is secure and that they do the minimal number of changes from one release to the next in order to make sure that their device continues to operate the way it needs to operate and has been certified to operate. So that's a pretty unique capability. This is the same capability that people have used in Windows Server and Windows Enterprise for a long time, so that 10 years of support. So all the way out to 2028, devices that are built with Windows IoT Enterprise or Windows IoT Core will have support available. And for customers that need support beyond that, we are open to taking in input about what else we can do to continue supporting customers that need support beyond those 10 years as well. And so what we do with that, because we have a new offering for that Windows IoT Core, we've had the free offering or the royalty-free option of Windows IoT Core on the semi-annual channel release, which is available through the web as well as through OEMs. With Windows IoT Core, as we get to long-term support, we're adding a subscription solution, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, as well as new ways of accessing and getting a copy of this to deploy on your solution. So we're really trying to match customers to where they want to be with Windows IoT Core and how they want to leverage that. And again, if this is something that you feel like customers are asking for and interested in on Windows IoT Enterprise, we can certainly look at that as well to improve the ease of obtaining the solution for the building systems. One of the other capabilities we've released with Windows IoT Core this year is something called Device Update Center. So Device Update Center is in private preview right now. It goes into public preview in July. And essentially what this is think of the Windows Update infrastructure. It's a solution that's like in over 150 countries around the world. It is what deploys new Windows patches and updates to PCs, so billions of PCs around the world. This is the infrastructure that is going and sending out those updates to that solution. And now we've made that entire infrastructure available to our IoT customers. So with using this Device Update Center, customers will not only be able to update and control the timing of the OS updates. So if I have a retail store, I really don't want to have an update go down to my devices on Black Friday. I want to make sure that those are going to be deployed at the schedule that makes sense for me as the owner of those devices. So Device Update Center allows the customers to control when those updates go out for the OS, as well as for their own data and applications. So that means you're not now have a way of, if you have a update that you want to push out to your hundreds of thousands of devices that are located on telephone poles around the world monitoring air quality, you don't have to send a technician out to do those updates anymore. You can do those updates through the device update center. You can deploy the ring that you want to send that solution out to, and then you can push that out, and the Windows update infrastructure will push out that update to all those devices as necessary over time. So you're in control of that environment, which is a pretty powerful capability and a unique capability of Windows in its offering for that. And then, wrapping things up, is the subscription services. So we talked about subscription very briefly early on, but it's a new capability, a new way that we're looking to provide Windows IoT Core to customers. So in addition to the royalty-free model, this is going to be a paid option for customers where they will, they'll receive the long-term support channel, so they'll receive the 10-year support option. They'll receive access to things like the Device Update Center to manage updates to those devices over time. And then they will have things like, options like the Device Health Attestation for their security. They'll be able to get things like telemetry on their devices, so figuring out information about when or why their devices are not functioning the way they expect to. All that information will be available to them as a subscription model. And this allows customers also to match things, because if I don't need a device, if my device is only going to be deployed for 3 years or something like that, I don't necessarily need to pay for support for the full 10 years of the solution. I can pay on an annual basis for those devices that I have actually deployed. So it's going to give more flexibility to customers about how they want to pay and what sort of capabilities they really want in their device and in their solution. So a unique function of Windows IoT Core that's being brought forward. So to wrap things up, right, Windows IoT Core, it's there for edge and cloud solutions. We have both IoT Core and IoT Enterprise that have the same similar 3 key traits about why customers choose Windows, but they have 2 options, either a full-featured Windows desktop equivalent or a more lower resourced Windows environment for different usage models that they may be looking into. And then, this allows Windows to be in a lot of different industries and has put in a lot of new features into Windows that should hopefully make it more interesting for customers and a more attractive solution for customers as they deploy in the future. So Willie, I've been talking for quite a bit. Let's take the last couple minutes and open up for questions.
Sure. I really appreciate that, Chirag. Great overview there. If you do have some questions, please feel free, again, to type those in the message window, and I'll make sure they get asked. We'll stay on for a couple more minutes. I do have one question. As a partner, like how would, I'm trying to look at how a partner could monetize an Windows 10 IoT service. What are your thoughts there?
So these services are provided in a couple of different ways, right? So if you're sort of an OEM or somebody like the ThyssenKrupp example, for example, right? In that scenario, when ThyssenKrupp deploys a solution, any savings they can do on pushing out not having to do truck rolls because they have better maintenance or they have to do stock less inventory or anything like that is bottom line savings they have on their solution. So they're going to continue charging, Microsoft, $10,000 per elevator to support it over the course of a year, right? But if they don't have to go and send a technician out there every 2 months to go and fix things or update things, that provides them savings that they get on their back end for that solution. For somebody as a distributor or a partner who is looking at solutions and how you package these solutions and put them together, the Windows IoT offering, because it is integrated in this way, becomes a more complete solution for customers where they're going to be choosing and going to be doing more with their device, right? They're going to be collecting more sensor data, more information about their device, pushing more information that they're going to want to have cloud capabilities or other capabilities that are also going to be able to be sold by partners in order to leverage all those traits of an IoT device. So there's opportunity there, I think, on both sides of, depending on where you are in the partner and ecosystem, of extracting value by building a solution on Windows IoT.
Okay, great. Thank you there. We still don't have any questions that have come in. I'll be posting the slides on the on our Yammer network, aka.ms / Modern Workplace or MW partner community. And then again, I'll have the call recording up in about a day or two on our YouTube channel. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to attend, and also want to thank Chirag again for giving a great overview for Windows 10 IoT. Right now, I'll go ahead and close the call out. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Willie.